Ever wondered what would happen if you spent 300 years doing nothing but defeating slimes? Well, meet Azusa, a powerful yet laid-back witch who just wanted a peaceful life, but instead became the strongest being in the world. Azusa spent her life working too hard at a demanding corporate company, pushing herself so much that she eventually passed away from overwork. When she opened her eyes, she found herself standing before a kind goddess. The goddess, seeing how much Azusa had suffered, decided to give her a fresh start in life. Azusa, tired of stress, asked for immortality and to stay young forever so she could live a calm and peaceful life. The goddess agreed and made her an immortal witch. Azusa soon found a cozy little house in the highlands that the goddess had left for her. With a knife in her hand and enough money to get started, she set off to explore a nearby village. On her way, a slime attacked her. Luckily, it was weak, and she easily defeated it with her knife. The slime turned into a magic crystal, which Azusa figured might be useful later. But before she could move on, a whole group of slimes appeared, forcing her to fight them too. After finally reaching the village, a friendly woman guided Azusa to the Adventurers Guild. The receptionist welcomed her, explaining that the village was peaceful, with slimes being the only troublesome creatures around. When Azusa showed her the magic crystals she had collected, the receptionist said she could exchange them for money, but only after registering with the guild. Azusa followed the steps and placed her hand on a magic platform. It revealed that she was a level 1 witch. The receptionist was surprised to learn that Azusa was immortal despite her low level, but Azusa shrugged it off as luck. After registering, she traded her crystals for coins and returned home. Azusa soon settled into a simple routine, defeating 25 slimes a day, tending to her garden, and selling herbs from the forest. Time passed quickly, and before she knew it, 300 years had gone by. Azusa had become very good at taking down slimes, and was now known as the Highland Witch. She often helped villagers by curing sicknesses and providing medicine. One day, the guild receptionist, Natalie, asked Azusa to retake her adventurer's test since her last one was done ages ago. Azusa agreed and was shocked to find her level had skyrocketed to 99. At first, she thought the device was broken, but Natalie reminded her that after 300 years of fighting slimes, it all added up, especially since Azusa unknowingly had a skill that doubled her experience points. While most people would be thrilled, Azusa was upset. All she wanted was a peaceful life. She begged Natalie to keep her strength a secret, and after some thought, Natalie agreed. Curious about her new powers, Azusa decided to test her magic. While trying to freeze some water, she accidentally froze an entire waterfall. She realized she could now control both fire and ice magic, which made her daily tasks easier. But despite her efforts to stay unnoticed, rumors about her strength spread. Soon, a group of adventurers showed up at her house, eager to challenge her. Azusa tried to explain that she was just a simple witch who grew herbs, but they refused to believe her. Left with no choice, Azusa agreed to fight, but only if they promised to tell everyone she was nothing special if she won. She drew a circle on the ground and explained that anyone who stepped out of it would lose. One of the adventurers created a tornado with wind magic, and when Azusa tried to copy the spell, she accidentally made a huge tornado that sent the challengers flying. The villagers saw the whole thing and were convinced she was incredibly powerful. Frustrated, Azusa confronted Natalie for revealing her secret, but a man named Ernest admitted he was the one who spread the rumors. Before long, news of her strength reached a powerful dragon named Laika, who arrived at Azusa's house demanding a duel. Azusa tried to avoid the fight by offering Laika the title of the strongest, but Laika refused to back down. Realizing there was no way out, Azusa agreed to the fight. The two flew into the sky, where Laika attacked with fiery breath. Azusa countered with ice magic, easily overpowering her flames. Desperate, Laika tried to hit Azusa with her claws, but Azusa dodged every strike and froze her mouth shut. Unable to continue, Laika gave up, but in her struggle, she accidentally smashed Azusa's house. Angry, Azusa knocked Laika out with a single punch. When Laika woke up, Azusa demanded payment for the damage. Laika promised to return with the money, and Azusa stayed in the village while her house was repaired. The next morning, Laika returned in her human form. After paying for the damage, she asked Azusa if she could become her student. Inspired by their battle, Laika realized she still had much to learn and hoped Azusa could teach her. Azusa wasn't sure about taking on a student since she had never trained anyone before. After all, her strength came from years of defeating slimes, not hard training. But Laika was eager to learn and even offered help with chores, so Azusa agreed to be her master. Living together, Azusa soon realized her house was too small for both of them. Seeing this, Laika decided to expand the house and started working tirelessly. She even planned to work through the night, but Azusa stopped her, not wanting Laika to overwork herself. So Laika continued working only during the day, and before long, the house was finished. Azusa was impressed, praising Laika for doing such a great job. One day, Azusa was busy defeating slimes when Laika watched in shock. She had assumed Azusa must have trained extremely hard to reach such a high level. Azusa laughed and reminded her to relax. After all, they had plenty of time to grow stronger. However, someone was watching them from a distance, a mysterious girl who muttered that she would make Azusa pay. The next morning, Laika prepared breakfast, but she ended up cooking way too much since she wasn't used to making food for others. Azusa enjoyed the meal and praised her, but she suggested they take turns cooking. During their conversation, Laika mentioned that the village's weak defenses made it vulnerable to monster attacks. She suggested setting up a protective barrier, and Azusa agreed since she couldn't guard the village all the time. They climbed a nearby cliff where Laika guided Azusa in creating a magic circle. Together, they successfully activated the barrier, and just in time, it froze a thief who was sneaking into the village. When Laika told the village chief it was all thanks to her master, the villagers started praising Azusa even more. Wanting Laika to get some credit, Azusa introduced her to everyone and proudly told them she was a dragon. The villagers were overjoyed knowing they had both a witch and a dragon protecting them. Life went on peacefully until one day, a girl named Farfa appeared at Azusa's door, claiming to be her daughter. Laika was shocked, but Azusa guessed Farfa was just confused about what mother meant. Things got even stranger when Farfa revealed she had a younger sister named Sharsha, and that Sharsha was planning to kill Azusa. Confused and a bit worried, Azusa and Laika invited Farfa inside for cookies. They asked why Sharsha wanted revenge, and Farfa explained that her sister believed Azusa had done something terrible to her. Laika suggested they prepare for the attack, so Azusa asked Farfa what kind of magic her sister used. Farfa revealed that Sharsha was skilled in Haja magic, a rare type of magic that gets stronger when focused on a specific target. Azusa knew this kind of magic usually required years of practice. Curious, she asked how old Farfa and Sharsha were, and was shocked to hear they were around 50 years old. Clearly, they weren't ordinary humans. Suddenly, the ground shook violently. Farfa rushed outside to find Sharsha standing nearby, surrounded by a dark aura. Farfa begged her sister to stop, but Sharsha refused, determined to take revenge. She claimed Azusa had killed her, which left Azusa completely baffled. Farfa then revealed the truth. Both she and Sharsha were slime spirits, born from the souls of slimes Azusa had defeated over the years. Sharsha believed she had to avenge those fallen slimes. Azusa didn't want to hurt Sharsha since she was still just a child. Laika suggested using wind magic to create a tornado, but Sharsha countered it easily with her Haja magic. Sharsha revealed that she had spent years training for this moment, making her attacks powerful enough to block even Azusa's strongest flames. Realizing Sharsha was only after her, Azusa tried to fly away to keep her friends safe, but Sharsha's magic canceled her flight spell, causing her to crash to the ground. Azusa lay there, thinking this was the end, until Laika transformed into her dragon form and leapt in front of her. Laika blocked Sharsha's powerful attack and knocked her out with one powerful punch. Everyone was stunned that Sharsha had been defeated so easily. Later, Farfa explained that Sharsha's Haja magic was designed to work only against Azusa, which is why it was so effective. When Sharsha woke up, she tried to attack again, but her magic failed. It required years of preparation, and now that it had been used, it was gone. Heartbroken, Sharsha believed her life's purpose was over. But Azusa comforted her, reminding her that she was still alive, and that meant she had a chance to build a new purpose. Azusa encouraged her to live her life fully, and when Sharsha was ready, she could challenge her again for revenge. After Sharsha's defeat, Farfa explained that Azusa had taken care of her while she was unconscious. Azusa smiled and said it was only natural. After all, Sharsha was her daughter, and she couldn't just leave her like that. Sharsha couldn't deny being Azusa's daughter, but she still couldn't forget what had happened to the slimes. Farfa tried to comfort her, reminding her that humans and slimes had always been enemies, so fighting between them was common. She told Sharsha to be grateful they were still alive. Hearing this, Azusa invited the sisters to live with her, and to her surprise, Sharsha agreed. Everyone was thrilled. Laika suggested throwing a welcome party for their new family members. They all went to the village to buy ingredients. On the way, Azusa asked what the sisters had been doing until now. They explained that they had been fighting bad slimes, the transparent ones. To demonstrate, they showed Azusa a bad slime and poked its weak spot, defeating it easily. Later that evening, they enjoyed a lovely dinner party together. Azusa felt happy to have Farfa and Sharsha in her life. The sisters spent the evening reading a book about elven history, which made Azusa realize she had never met an elf before. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. When Azusa opened it, she found a young elf named Harkara. The panicked elf begged for help, saying that a powerful demon named Beelzebub was after her. Since Azusa wasn't fond of fighting, she tried to close the door, but Harakara pleaded with her to let her stay. Feeling sorry for her, Azusa allowed Harakara to stay at her home. Harakara explained that she was from a small elven nation in the province of Rand. She used to make medicines from plants and had recently created an energy drink that became popular. She even opened a small factory, but production couldn't keep up with demand. Azusa asked why Beelzebub was chasing her, and Harakara explained that demons couldn't handle her energy drink. Beelzebub had nearly died after drinking it, and now she wanted revenge. Feeling sorry for her, Farfa and Sharsha convinced Azusa to help. Azusa agreed but made it clear that she would only offer shelter. She didn't want to fight Beelzebub. She gave Harakara a disciple's outfit, telling her to pretend she was her second student, then placed a protective barrier around the house for extra safety. That evening, they all enjoyed a hearty meal. Harakara got emotional since she had been surviving on tree nuts while running from Beelzebub. Farfa and Sharsha shared their food with her, making her cry with gratitude. The next day, Azusa and Harakara went to the forest to gather herbs. However, Azusa noticed that Harakara was only picking mushrooms. Harakara proudly explained that mushrooms were her specialty. She knew everything about them. They later cooked the mushrooms, and Azusa found them delicious. But suddenly, Harakara started laughing uncontrollably and couldn't stop. Realizing what had happened, Azusa asked Harakara about the side effects. Harakara explained that the mushroom caused uncontrollable laughter and made people overly honest. Using her magic, Azusa calmed herself and returned to normal. Feeling guilty, Harakara apologized and offered the mushrooms as a peace offering. Thankfully, everyone loved them. Later, Azusa showed Harakara how to hunt slimes. Harakara was amazed but needed several tries to defeat just one slime. While visiting the village, Azusa noticed people staring at Harakara. Her large chest was drawing a lot of attention. This made Azusa a bit jealous, but Harakara encouraged her to be confident in herself. At the Adventurers Guild, Azusa spotted a wanted poster for Harakara with a bounty of 15 million gold. The poster didn't include Harakara's appearance, so Azusa knew the adventurers wouldn't find her easily. However, she worried that Beelzebub might track them down soon. She asked Laika to take Farfa and Sharsha somewhere safe. Sharsha insisted she wanted to stay and fight alongside Azusa. In the end, Laika transformed into her dragon form and flew the sisters to safety. Meanwhile, Harakara gulped down her energy drink, saying it made her feel like she could fight all night. She mentioned that she only made things she trusted enough to drink herself. She assumed Azusa had been drinking it too since several bottles were lying around, but Azusa denied it. Harakara laughed, thinking she was joking, but Azusa firmly reminded her this wasn't the time for jokes. Azusa then asked if Beelzebub was a fly, and Harakara explained that Beelzebub was known as the Lord of Flies. Suddenly, they realized that the buzzing sound they had been hearing was actually Beelzebub in her fly form. Beelzebub transformed into her human form and explained that she had been flying around the house to confirm Harakara was staying there. She mentioned that she enjoyed buzzing around as a fly and had gone through a lot of trouble to track Harakara down. Harakara begged for her life, promising to do anything Beelzebub wanted. Beelzebub seemed pleased, but Azusa firmly held onto Harakara, stating that any deal involving her student would have to go through her first. Beelzebub smirked and challenged Azusa to a fight. Although Azusa didn't want to, she agreed to a fair match. They went outside, and just as Beelzebub transformed into her demon form, she was immediately shocked by the protective barrier Azusa had set up. Weakened but still determined, Beelzebub insisted on fighting. However, before she could do anything, she collapsed. Azusa quickly brought her inside and used healing magic on her, though she wondered if helping a demon was the right choice. Beelzebub soon woke up, feeling much better. Realizing that Azusa was actually kind-hearted, she smiled and admitted that once she recovered, she wanted to drink Harakara's energy drink again. Harakara was shocked. She thought Beelzebub had almost died because of it and had been seeking revenge. Beelzebub laughed and explained that the drink itself wasn't the problem. She had been pulling an all-nighter when she drank it and ended up feeling incredibly energetic. Unfortunately, she pushed herself too hard, which is why she got sick. Surprisingly, she revealed that the Demon King also liked the drink and had become quite popular among demons. She encouraged Harakara to make more of it. Beelzebub apologized to Azusa for the misunderstanding, but Azusa was just relieved they didn't end up in a pointless fight. Harakara then mentioned that she was thinking of moving her factory to their continent. Since everyone in her hometown had abandoned her, staying close to Azusa and the others felt like a better idea. Azusa happily welcomed her, suggesting they could all take turns cooking to make things easier. Later, Farfa and Sharsha curiously asked Beelzebub all sorts of questions about herself. Finding them adorable, Beelzebub even joked about adopting one of them, but Azusa quickly refused. One evening, Harakara asked Azusa if she had ever experienced romance. Azusa admitted she hadn't, which surprised Harakara. She teased Azusa, saying that since she was still young, there was plenty of time to think about such things. Curious, Azusa asked Harakara's age. To her surprise, Harakara revealed she was around 200 years old, which was still considered young for an elf. And Harakara playfully asked if they liked anyone. Both proudly declared that they loved their mother most, which made Azusa feel incredibly happy. The next morning, Laika prepared breakfast for everyone, but before they could start eating, she announced that she had to return to her hometown. Everyone was shocked, and Azusa worried something was wrong. Laika reassured her that it was nothing serious. Her sister was getting married, and she needed to attend the wedding. She even invited everyone to come along. Excited about the trip, they all set off toward the Rocco volcano on Micah's back. The journey was enjoyable, but Harakara started feeling sick, so they stopped to let her rest before continuing. Upon reaching their destination, they saw red dragons gathering for the wedding. Laika's former classmates from the girls' college greeted them warmly. As they walked around, Harakara accidentally stepped on a plate, and a dragon mistook her for food. Thankfully, the dragon let her go unharmed. Laika then introduced everyone to her parents, though her father's voice was so loud they had to cover their ears. Soon, they met Laika's elder sister, Layla, and her fiancé. Curious about their love story, Harakara asked how they got together. Layla revealed they were childhood friends who reunited after 8 years and decided to get married. Suddenly, a powerful gust of cold air swept through the area. The notorious blue dragons had arrived. Their leader, Fura, stormed in and announced that she had come to ruin the wedding. Bitterly, she revealed that she was older than Layla yet still single, so she didn't want the red dragons to celebrate. Her companions began freezing parts of the volcano, forcing the red dragons to prepare for battle. The sight frightened Farfa and Sharsha, but Azusa calmly assured them that she would handle it. Meanwhile, Harakara was pretending to be unconscious, but when a dragon nearly stepped on her, she sprang to her feet and started running. Azusa grabbed her and led the group away, but a blue dragon attacked them with icy breath. Acting fast, Azusa countered with her fire magic. Laika faced off against Fura in heated duel. Azusa watched, unsure if she should step in since it wasn't her fight. But when a dragon suddenly lunged at her, she had no choice but to respond. With one swift kick, she knocked the dragon out cold. Realizing things were getting serious, Azusa told Harakara to take the children to safety. Determined to protect her family, Azusa flew into the sky and unleashed a powerful wave of fire, drawing all the blue dragons' attention. They surrounded her and attacked at once, but Azusa used her fire magic to fend them off. With one powerful strike after another, she sent them tumbling to the ground. The red dragons watched in awe as Azusa's strength stunned them. Fura was furious, unable to believe a human could defeat dragons with raw power alone. Azusa explained that her strength came from her years of consistent training. Determined not to give up, Fura countered with her ice magic, but Azusa noticed it was her only move. Seizing the opportunity, Azusa overwhelmed her with flames before landing a powerful kick from above, sending Fura crashing to the ground. The remaining blue dragons panicked and quickly fled. The red dragons cheered for Azusa, but before they could relax, another group of blue dragons was spotted approaching the volcano. As they hurried to intercept them, Laika sighed, worried her sister's wedding would be ruined. When they reached the volcano, they found the blue dragons trapped inside a magic circle that was draining their power. Confused, they wondered who was behind it. To their surprise, Beelzebub appeared. She explained that she had been enjoying the hot springs when the blue dragons disturbed her, so she dealt with them using her demon magic. Azusa was amazed that Beelzebub had single-handedly defeated 5 blue dragons. Beelzebub shrugged it off, reminding them that she was a high-ranking demon who had lived for 3,000 years. She even teased Azusa, wondering if she could defeat her in a proper fight. Azusa, however, wasn't interested in fighting. Instead, she walked over and hugged Beelzebub warmly, grateful to have such a powerful friend by her side. Azusa faced Fura and asked her to change into her human form for the upcoming negotiations. Fura complied and asked what they wanted. Laika then presented a bill showing the damage costs caused by the blue dragons during their attack. Fura was stunned. The amount was incredibly high. Laika warned her that if she didn't pay, she'd have to stay there forever. Left with no choice, Fura reluctantly agreed to pay. Azusa then suggested that they establish a peace treaty, ensuring that the blue and red dragons would no longer fight. Fura stubbornly argued that harassing the red dragons was their life's purpose. Azusa, however, firmly threatened to detain her if she didn't agree to the treaty, so Fura finally gave in. Beelzebub announced that both she and Azusa would act as witnesses to the treaty, warning that there would be serious consequences if either side broke it. Afterward, all the dragons changed into their human forms and returned to the party. Everyone congratulated the newlywed couple. even Fura. But when Layla jokingly said Fura would never get married, Fura angrily cursed her. Later that evening, Laika approached Azusa and asked if she could rest her head on her lap. She explained that her sister used to do it whenever she felt nervous. Meanwhile, Harakara got drunk and passed out. Beelzebub carried her, warning her not to throw up. She then invited everyone to stay at the hot spring resort where she was staying, and they happily accepted. While soaking in a hot spring, Azusa reflected on her life. She thought about how they become like a real family, with Farfa and Sharsha as her children, and Beelzebub and Laika feeling like sisters. However, she forgot to mention Harakara, so she quickly added that Harakara was their troublemaker, which made everyone laugh. Later, Harakara asked to switch her cooking day with Azusa's. This confused everyone, making them think she was moving out. Saddened by the thought, they threw her a farewell party. Harakara then explained she wasn't leaving, she was just searching for a new spot to build her factory. Sometime later, Harakara returned home exhausted, worrying Azusa. She warned Harakara not to push herself too hard, but Harakara insisted she'd be fine after an energy drink. Azusa reminded her to come home before sunset, but Harakara mentioned there was a ghost in her factory. Because of it, all the locals were too afraid to work there, leaving Harakara to handle everything on her own. Sharsha guessed the ghost was probably a bound spirit, stuck in a place where it died. Desperate for help, Harakara begged Azusa to get rid of the ghost. Azusa admitted she wasn't very good with ghosts, but after some pleading, she agreed, on the condition that her helper would come along. Azusa tried to summon Beelzebub, but her chant went wrong, and Beelzebub ended up landing in a cold water tub. Soaked and furious, Beelzebub demanded to know why they called her. After hearing about the ghost, she grumbled that they had summoned her for something so simple. But when Farfa and Sharsha expressed their trust in her abilities, she agreed to help. However, when Beelzebub learned the ghost only appeared at night, she was irritated. "You should have waited until evening before summoning me," she snapped. That night, they all went to the factory. Beelzebub looked confident, which reassured Azusa that she had called the right person. Still, Azusa and Harakara were scared, so they held hands and formed a chain for comfort. Beelzebub asked Harakara to show her where the ghost appeared. Nervously, Harakara pointed to the room. Neither she nor Azusa wanted to enter, but Beelzebub dragged them in. After some effort, Beelzebub managed to capture the ghost, a spirit named Rosary. Harakara asked Rosary why she was haunting the place. Rosary revealed that hundreds of years ago, she had been told she was being married off to a noble family. At first, she believed it was because of her beauty and good manners. But she later learned that her parents had deceived her. They had sold her to that noble family. Curious, Harakara questioned if Rosary had really been as well-mannered as she claimed, since she didn't seem that way now. Rosary explained that after spending centuries as a ghost, she had changed. She claimed the factory was hers now, leaving Azusa unsure what to do next. Beelzebub suggested erasing Rosary from existence, but Azusa rejected the idea, believing there had to be a better solution. Harakara asked if Rosary could simply leave the factory. Rosary sadly revealed that she had already tried many times but couldn't. Fortunately, Beelzebub had an idea. Rosary's spirit could escape if she possessed a living person's body. They all agreed Harakara was the best choice since she seemed the least strong-willed. They tied Harakara to a chair, and Rosary successfully took over her body. Azusa, feeling sorry for Rosary, invited her to stay with them. Rosary was touched and called Azusa her big sister, vowing to protect her even if it cost her life, only to be reminded that she was already dead. Back at their home, Rosary attempted to return to her original ghost form, but she couldn't leave Harakara's body. Panicked, she asked Beelzebub for help. Laika wondered if having two souls in one body could harm Harakara, and Beelzebub admitted that it could even lead to her death. Not wanting to hurt Harakara, Rosary tried to take her own life to fix things, but Azusa quickly stopped her, knowing that doing so would also kill Harakara. They held a meeting to find a solution. Laika suggested they swirl Harakara like shaking a stuck cookie out of a jar. Azusa followed the idea, spinning Harakara and flinging her across the room, but it didn't work. Next, Laika recommended hitting her from behind, so Sharsha tried that, but all it did was leave Harakara groaning in pain. Laika mentioned that if nothing else worked, breaking the box might be the only solution. Hearing this, Beelzebub prepared to kill Harakara, but Azusa quickly stopped her just in time. Farfa then suggested surprising Rosary instead. So Azusa and Laika carried her high into the sky and let her fall. Unfortunately, that plan failed too. They tried several other methods, but nothing seemed to work. Finally, they decided to get Rosary drunk, hoping that Harakara would regain control of her body once she fell asleep. Thankfully, the plan worked, and Harakara woke up, confused about how she ended up there. To make sure Rosary left Harakara's body for good, they threw her into cold water. This successfully forced Rosary out, and she apologized for causing so much trouble. Harakara mentioned that convincing the workers to return to the factory would be difficult now. But Azusa came up with a clever idea. They would introduce Rosary as a kind-hearted ghost who used her powers to help others. The plan worked, and the townspeople accepted Rosary as part of their community. Rosary was overjoyed to make new friends. Soon after, Beelzebub congratulated Azusa, announcing that she had been awarded the Demon Medal of Honor, a prestigious award given to those who greatly contribute to demon society. Since Azusa had stopped the war between the red and blue dragons, Beelzebub believed she truly deserved it. Everyone was excited, and although Azusa wasn't particularly thrilled about the award, she decided to accept it for their sake. Beelzebub informed them that the ceremony would take place in 3 weeks and promised to pick them up before it began. When Azusa learned the ceremony would be held in demon territory, she and her friends were shocked. But Beelzebub assured them there was no need to worry since demons had changed. As long as they behaved politely, no harm would come to them. Everyone grew concerned for Harakara since she wasn't known for her manners. Harakara tried to make excuses to avoid going, but Sharsha explained that skipping the event would deeply offend the demons. Rosary wondered if she was invited too, since she was a ghost. Azusa smiled and told her she was part of their family now, so of course she was coming. Realizing Rosary didn't have a proper outfit, they decided she needed a new dress. However, Rosary explained that ghosts couldn't change their clothes because their outfits were tied to memories from when they were alive. Sharsha remembered a researcher friend who knew a lot about ghosts, so they visited him. He confirmed that Rosary's dress was linked to her memories, making it impossible to change. Feeling discouraged, Rosary was ready to give up. But Azusa remembered her special ability to create magic. Determined to help, Azusa spent the entire night crafting a magical dress. After several failed attempts, she finally succeeded in making a beautiful dress for Rosary. Everyone was thrilled to see her in it. Soon, Beelzebub arrived with a massive flying leviathan that even had a building on its back. She introduced Vanya, another leviathan, who welcomed them warmly. Vanya explained that she and her elder sister, Fatla, took turns flying and serving guests. She had also prepared a delicious meal for them. Azusa thought the demons were being overly kind, but Beelzebub assured her it was because she truly deserved it. Her name would even be remembered in demon history. After the meal, they relaxed in the warm bath. That night, as everyone slept, Rosary admired the beautiful sky. Harakara, feeling restless, wandered to the bathhouse by mistake. Rosary thanked her for building the factory, explaining that it gave her the chance to finally leave the place where she had died. Harakara smiled and told her that they were all family now, and family didn't need to repay kindness. Rosary was deeply touched. The next morning, everyone panicked when they couldn't find Harakara. Worried she had stayed in the bath for too long, they rushed to check on her, only to find her safe, having simply fallen off her bed. Later, Beelzebub showed them the royal capital, explaining they would first meet the Demon King before the award ceremony. Everyone felt nervous, especially Harakara and Laika, who feared that a mistake might lead to their deaths. Beelzebub scolded them, warning that if they disrespected her king, she would be the one to punish them. The castle was like a maze, designed to confuse any invaders. Once they reached the throne room, they saw a young girl named Pecora greeting them. Harakara, thinking she was just a bystander, asked her to step aside since they were there to meet the Demon King. Pecora calmly revealed that she didn't have bad intentions, and Azusa was surprised by her gentle nature. Meanwhile, Laika noticed the throne was empty. Beelzebub smiled and revealed that the Demon King was standing right in front of them, Pecora herself. She explained that Pecora didn't like greeting people from a high position, so she had stepped down to meet them face to face. Harakara quickly apologized for her behavior, but then she made another mistake by mispronouncing Pecora's name. Thankfully, Pecora didn't seem upset and told Harakara to lift her head. But Harakara got up too fast and accidentally knocked Pecora out cold. Everyone panicked, and Harakara was arrested on the spot. Azusa realized that according to demon laws, Harakara could face execution, and in the worst case, her entire village could be destroyed. Everyone feared for their own safety too, but Azusa remembered that Beelzebub had said they would be spared if the Demon King pardoned them after waking up. Just then, Rosary appeared from the wall and told Azusa that there were special herbs in the garden that could help. The problem was figuring out how to reach them. Laika volunteered and transformed into her small dragon form, which Azusa found adorable. Laika quickly returned with the herbs, and Azusa prepared a strong, bitter potion that would surely wake Pecora up. Now they had to find a way to reach Pecora's room. Luckily, Vanya appeared with a map and a doctor's outfit for Azusa to wear as a disguise. Since the castle was in chaos, no one would notice her if she kept her head down. Vanya promised to guide her the rest of the way. As they moved through the castle, Azusa worried that if they were caught, both of them would be punished. Vanya, however, explained that she had no choice. Beelzebub had ordered her to help. Their plan seemed to be working until they were stopped by guards who knew the real doctor's identity. Vanya panicked, forcing Azusa to reveal herself. While Beelzebub pretended not to know what was happening, the guards arrested Vanya and moved to attack Azusa. Determined to protect her family, Azusa fought back and quickly defeated the guards. Their leader ordered the soldiers to use ice magic to stop her, but even their combined spells couldn't harm Azusa. She defeated them all, and Beelzebub commented that when Azusa got serious, she had the power to destroy an entire country. Finally, they reached the Demon King's room. Just as Azusa was about to give Pecora the potion, Pecora suddenly woke up, sensing the commotion outside. When she asked what Azusa was trying to feed her, Azusa explained that it was just a healing potion to wake her up. Pecora, however, thought it looked suspiciously like poison. To prove her innocence, Pecora challenged Azusa to a duel. If Azusa could defeat her without trying to kill her, it would prove she wasn't a threat. But if Azusa lost, everything would be over, including Harakara's life. The duel began, and Azusa focused on dodging Pecora's attacks. Pecora reminded her that Harakara's life was on the line, urging her to take the fight seriously. That's when Azusa got serious, and determined to protect her family, she punched Pecora with enough force to knock her back and send her sword flying. Azusa declared the fight over, but Pecora insisted she could still continue. Azusa pointed out that her sword was gone, and just then, the blade shattered into pieces. Surprisingly, instead of being angry, Pecora smiled and called Azusa her big sis, saying she would happily do whatever Azusa asked. She revealed that the duel had been a test. Pecora had been looking for someone stronger than her whom she could admire and respect. With that, Pecora freed Harakara and asked Azusa to kiss her on the cheek, just like the elder sister character in her favorite book. After some hesitation, Azusa agreed. Unfortunately, Harakara and the others walked in at the worst moment and mistook it for something else entirely. Pecora angrily scolded Harakara for interrupting. Farfa then mentioned that Azusa had never kissed her daughters before, so Azusa sweetly kissed both her girls and hugged her whole family. At the award ceremony, Pecora called Azusa and Laika to the stage, but to their surprise, she also invited Fura, the blue dragon. Pecora instructed Azusa to stroke Fura's horns, a sign of submission in dragon culture. Azusa hesitated, but when Pecora threatened to make Laika do it instead, she reluctantly agreed. On their way home, they rode with Vanya, while Fatla attended to their needs. Azusa wondered when Fura would leave, but Fura explained that once she submitted to someone, she couldn't leave her master. Laika wasn't thrilled about having two dragons at home, and suggested that Azusa tell Fura to go. But Fura explained that, according to dragon customs, leaving her master would mean she had to die. Later, while flying, Vanya remembered a funny joke and suddenly shook with laughter, causing Fatla to accidentally spill honey water on Azusa. Fura immediately shielded her. Azusa then told Fura that while she was welcome to stay, she should live her life freely and only come to her for advice if needed. Fura was touched by Azusa's words and asked her to pet her head one last time. Azusa realized that Fura had a softer side she rarely showed, and when Fura called her mama, Azusa couldn't help but smile. Not long after, Azusa woke up one morning to hear Laika's voice filled with frustration. Rosary revealed that ever since Fura had joined their home, she and Laika had been constantly arguing, not with their fists, but over whose cookies tasted better. Thankfully, their rivalry had turned into a peaceful and delicious competition. Azusa tried to ease the tension between Laika and Fura by saying both of their cookies tasted great, but they insisted she pick a winner, which puzzled Harakara. Sharsha explained that dragons are meat-eaters, and since they hadn't had any in a while, their tempers were flaring. Just then, Natalie arrived with news there was an outbreak of long hammer boars in Nelka Forest. The locals couldn't handle them, so they hoped Azusa would step in. At first, Azusa wasn't interested since she didn't need any more magic stones. But when Natalie mentioned that these weren't monsters, they didn't drop stones but instead provided meat, Laika and Fura instantly begged Azusa to take the job. Harakara chuckled, saying they must be starving for some meat. Azusa agreed, and they headed off while Harakara stayed behind to watch the children. Rosary guided them, pointing out that 15 boars were just ahead. Excited, Fura rushed forward but ended up getting her clothes snagged on some branches. Thinking no one was around, she decided to take them off to free herself, only to realize people were nearby. Embarrassed, she hurried to dress again, but before she could, the boars grabbed her clothes and tossed them away. With no choice, Fura had to fight them in her bare skin. Thankfully, the others arrived just in time to help, and together they quickly defeated the boars. Later, as they cooked the meat, Beelzebub and Vanya appeared, returning Fura's clothes. They explained that they had come to investigate the wild boars and gather food for the demon realm, but since Azusa's group had already collected plenty, their job was done. That evening, Laika and Fura apologized for their earlier behavior. They revealed they had made a bet. The winner would get to sleep beside Azusa for a night. Amused, Azusa invited both of them to sleep next to her, reminding them to get along since they were all like sisters. Later that night, Azusa woke up to find Laika and Fura missing from her beds. She found them sneaking around the kitchen, happily munching on leftover meat from a hunt. The next day, Azusa overheard two women talking about the Highland Witch helping people around the world. Surprised, Azusa realized someone was impersonating her. Determined to stop the fake witch, Azusa set out to investigate. Laika suggested they visit a local bar to gather information, but when they arrived, they were surprised by how rude everyone was. The bartender explained that their business had been struggling, so they switched to treating customers like pigs, and oddly enough, it worked. She promised to share information about the Highland, which if Azusa's group played along and joined in the rude behavior. Though it felt strange, Azusa and Laika agreed and roasted the customers with insults until the bartender was satisfied. True to her word, she told them the imposter could be found in the north. When they arrived, they discovered the so-called Highland Witch was just an old lady. Azusa called her out as a fake and challenged her to a duel, but the old woman ran off instead. After capturing her, they learned that the imposter was actually a young witch named Ino who had disguised herself as an elderly woman. Ino apologized, explaining she hadn't meant any harm. Azusa forgave her, and Laika realized Ino was also a witch. Curious about her abilities, they asked if she made potions. Ino proudly showed them her special pills. They relieved exhaustion, soothed eye strain, and even improved gut health. Impressed, Azusa praised her creations, saying they would be a big hit if sold properly. However, Ino was hesitant to advertise herself, fearing too much attention. Laika was confused by Ino's mixed feelings, but Azusa understood. Ino secretly wanted to be recognized as a great witch, yet she didn't want to become a typical business person. Ino admitted that she wanted to be famous enough for someone to build a statue in her honor. Azusa encouraged her to draw attention to her skills if she wanted to achieve that dream. With newfound confidence, Ino opened a stall at the local festival, selling her magic pills. Meanwhile, Laika and Fura sold their cookies. Later, Ino sent Azusa a letter thanking her for the advice, proudly sharing that her business was thriving. One morning, Azusa was making breakfast when Sharsha ran in, panicked. She claimed that Farfa had turned into a slime. At first, Azusa thought it was a joke, but when she looked down and saw a slime clinging to her leg and realized it really was Farfa, she was shocked. Harakara guessed that since Farfa was a spirit, she might have the ability to transform into a slime. However, Sharsha was just as confused as everyone else. Azusa knew it wouldn't be easy to create a spell that could turn her back into her human form. Fura suggested asking the demons for help, so Azusa summoned Beelzebub. As usual, Beelzebub ended up splashing straight into the cold water. After drying off, Azusa explained the situation. Beelzebub thought Azusa was joking at first, but when she saw Farfa in slime form, she believed her. Beelzebub hugged the slime version of Farfa, but unfortunately, she didn't know how to turn her back either. However, she did suggest seeking help from an intelligent slime that resided at the castle. With hope renewed, Azusa told her family not to worry. She was determined to bring Farfa back to normal. Azusa and her group finally arrived at their destination, and Beelzebub explained that the intelligent slime liked to stay in quiet places. However, she soon realized she had forgotten the exact path, and they ended up wandering around aimlessly. Beelzebub reassured Azusa, saying she had been dropping pieces of bread along the way to mark their path. Unfortunately, they discovered that Farfa had been quietly eating the breadcrumbs, forcing them to return to the surface. Back outside, they ran into Pecora, who offered to help, but only if Azusa kissed her. Reluctantly, Azusa gave her a quick kiss, and Pecora revealed there was a hidden passage inside a nearby shed. Following her lead, they found the passage and eventually reached the intelligent slime. The slime communicated by writing on a board, but sadly, it couldn't help them. However, it did suggest visiting the magician slime who lived atop the tallest mountain in the Tamariana province. The next day, they climbed the mountain and found a house where a young girl greeted them. To their surprise, this was the magician slime, who had used transformation magic to appear human. After hearing their problem, she carefully examined Farfa and noticed her body felt different from a normal slime's. After some thought, the magician slime explained that the real issue was Farfa's sleeping position. She must have strained a muscle while sleeping, which caused her to lose her human form. The magician slime offered to temporarily change Farfa back with her magic, but it wouldn't last long. Instead, she advised them to meet the fighter slime, a strong warrior who had achieved her human form through body movement. The magician slime revealed the fighter slime was in a southern town called Kinley, participating in a fighting tournament. When they arrived in Kinley, they learned Beelzebub had also joined the tournament. Since magic wasn't allowed in the matches, Beelzebub warned Azusa to be careful. Both of them easily defeated their opponents and reached the semifinals. Beelzebub faced the fighter slime and surprisingly won, which worried Azusa since she had hoped to speak with the slime about Farfa. However, Beelzebub promised to handle it, asking Azusa to focus on their upcoming match. Before their fight, Beelzebub successfully helped Farfa return to her human form. With that problem solved, Azusa and Beelzebub prepared for their battle. As the match began, Azusa tried attacking Beelzebub, but Beelzebub dodged using her wings. The crowd, unaware she was a demon, assumed her horns and wings were just a fashion statement. Beelzebub knew she couldn't match Azusa's speed, so she tried targeting Azusa's weak points, but Azusa had too many, and Beelzebub couldn't decide where to strike. Meanwhile, Azusa simply waited, knowing Beelzebub would eventually make her move. When Beelzebub finally attacked, Azusa quickly grabbed her by the cheeks. It had been her plan all along. They exchanged a few blows, and while the audience thought they were evenly matched, Azusa knew she had the upper hand. Hearing Farfa cheer for her gave Azusa a boost of motivation. Determined to win for her daughter, she dodged Beelzebub's next attack and knocked her out with one powerful strike. Azusa checked on Beelzebub afterward, and although Beelzebub claimed she was fine, Azusa carried her in her arms, just in case. Azusa offered Beelzebub a rematch but warned her it would be a hassle, so she'd need to wait a while. Beelzebub then pointed out that Azusa's dream of living a quiet life might be disturbed now that everyone had seen how powerful she really was. Later, they visited the fighter slime to thank her for her help. The slime seemed upset about losing the tournament's prize money, so she asked Azusa to take her on as a martial arts student. Azusa tried to decline, but the slime insisted on proving her strength by challenging her to a friendly match. Just before the fight, the slime sensed a dark aura surrounding Azusa, the kind that only appears around those who have defeated countless slimes. Terrified, she fainted before the match even started. And when the slime woke up, she declared she no longer wanted to become Azusa's student. But things took a surprising turn when Beelzebub joined him, and the fighter slime suddenly begged her to become her teacher instead. Azusa realized this could be useful. If Beelzebub trained a slime, they would always know where to find her in case someone turned into a slime again. At first, Beelzebub hesitated, but after some convincing, she agreed to become the slime's teacher. A few days later, the group noticed a poster about a musician named Cuckoo, who was coming to their village for a performance. None of them had heard of her except for Fura, who loved music and was excited to attend. They all went to the concert, but Cuckoo's loud rock and roll style wasn't to everyone's liking. Eventually, everyone except Azusa and Fura left. As they watched, Fura commented that Cuckoo's music started strong but gradually slowed down. Suddenly, Cuckoo collapsed on stage. At first, the crowd thought it was part of her act, but when they realized she wasn't moving, Azusa and Fura rushed to help. They brought her home, fed her a good meal, and soon enough, Cuckoo was back to full strength. After taking a relaxing bath, Cuckoo joined the others, surprising them all with her bare face. Without her makeup, she looked just like an ordinary girl. Curious, they asked if she often fainted like she had during her performance. Cuckoo admitted that she did. Her work as a musician didn't bring in enough money to support her properly. Fura commented that only a few musicians truly make it big, and Cuckoo shared that she had left her hometown 63 years ago with dreams of becoming a famous singer. Sadly, her career had never taken off. Azusa encouraged Cuckoo to stay with them and take some time to relax. However, Cuckoo revealed she was thinking about quitting music altogether since she'd already received some job offers. Unfortunately, those offers didn't seem very respectable. Azusa asked if she still loved music, and when Cuckoo said yes, she encouraged her to keep going a little longer. Azusa reminded her that if she truly wanted to change careers, no one would stop her, but she hoped Cuckoo would give her dreams another shot. To celebrate their friendship, Cuckoo decided to sing a song for them, but her performance was rough and no one could bear it. Fura gently suggested that Cuckoo change her music style to something softer, but Cuckoo refused to believe her intense rock sound was a mistake. Determined to show her what she meant, Fura grabbed her guitar and played a beautiful song that amazed everyone. Inspired, Azusa suggested Cuckoo try writing simpler, more meaningful lyrics. Cuckoo struggled with this at first, so Azusa asked everyone in the house to help out. Laika and Harakara shared their songs, but they weren't well received. Surprisingly, Farfa and Sharsha delivered a charming performance that impressed everyone. Rosary sang a haunting tune called Nothing, expressing her sadness as a ghost. Her song left everyone feeling gloomy. It made Cuckoo realize that her own songs had been about death, despite never experiencing it herself. Deciding it was time for a change, she abandoned her old stage name, embraced her real one, and wrote heartfelt lyrics for her next song. Grateful for everyone's help, Cuckoo thanked them before heading off. Azusa reminded her that their home would always be open if she ever wanted to visit again. Fura reflected that even though Cuckoo lacked natural talent, success didn't always go to the most gifted. Sometimes determination mattered more. Just then, Beelzebub arrived, announcing she had the day off and wanted to spend it with Farfa and Sharsha. Spotting Cuckoo, Beelzebub asked her to sing. Cuckoo agreed, thinking it was a good chance to test her new style. After performing, Beelzebub was so impressed that she invited Cuckoo to sing at the upcoming Demon Festival, where 20,000 people would be watching. Nervous but determined, Cuckoo decided to stay with Azusa's family a little longer to prepare. When they reached the Demon Kingdom, Cuckoo visited the venue while the others went shopping. Seeing the enormous stage, Cuckoo grew anxious. Despite Azusa and Laika's encouragement, her worries didn't go away. Fura tried to reassure her, reminding Cuckoo that she was no longer the same performer she used to be. After a playful argument between Fura and Laika, Cuckoo finally laughed and felt a bit more relaxed. Fura reminded her that all her hard work was done. Now all that remained was for the audience to hear her song. At the festival, Cuckoo gave an amazing performance that left the crowd in awe. She felt that her success was all thanks to the love and support of Azusa's family. Afterward, Beelzebub revealed that several event organizers had requested Cuckoo to perform again, meaning she could now make a living doing what she loved. Later, Fura took Cuckoo's guitar and played one of her old rock songs. She encouraged Cuckoo, reminding her that there's no single right path in life. As long as she kept trying, she wouldn't fail. Back home, Harakara prepared a mushroom feast for everyone. Azusa hesitated, remembering Harakara's past cooking disasters, but Harakara confidently assured her that she had carefully picked only the safest mushrooms. As Azusa enjoyed her meal, Harakara casually mentioned that the one Azusa was eating was a poison mushroom, not deadly, but one that causes the eater to shrink. Azusa, furious, reminded Harakara that she promised they were all safe. Harakara explained that the mushrooms she picked in the forest were safe, but this particular one had been grown in her room by mistake. Azusa soon passed out, and when she woke up, found herself shrunken to the size of a small child. Harakara apologized profusely, promising there were no other harmful effects. She hurried off to find a cure, while the others couldn't help but find tiny Azusa adorable. Fura couldn't resist lifting Azusa like a child, while Rosary jokingly mentioned that Azusa's soul must still weigh the same. Farfa and Sharsha fed her and even read her a doll book to help her fall asleep. The next morning, Laika prepared a fancy breakfast to suit Azusa's new appearance. When asked about Harakara, Laika revealed that she had locked herself in her room, working hard to find a way to fix Azusa's condition. Laika shyly asked if she could pat Azusa's head, and Azusa agreed, having already accepted her situation. Soon, Fura grew jealous and joined in, leading to a playful competition over who could give better head pats. Later, when Azusa struggled to grab a book, Rosary kindly helped her and asked if she could brush Azusa's hair. Just as Rosary started, Harakara rushed in. Hopeful, Azusa asked if she had found a cure, but Harakara sadly admitted that she hadn't, leaving Azusa to remain in her tiny form a little longer. Azusa realized she had no choice but to ask the demons for help, so she summoned Beelzebub. When Beelzebub arrived, she was shocked to see Azusa in her childlike form and didn't even recognize her at first. After Azusa explained everything, Beelzebub jokingly suggested she stay small forever since she looked like the most adorable child in the world. Amused, Azusa teased that she'd spread rumors about the great demon Beelzebub losing to a child if she didn't help. Finally giving in, Beelzebub agreed to find a cure, but insisted on bringing Sharsha and Farfa along because their presence made her happy. That night, they all shared the same bed, and the next morning, Azusa tried to stop Beelzebub from telling Pecora about her situation, worried it would just complicate things. However, to their surprise, Pecora was already waiting for them. She found Azusa's tiny form adorable, but agreed that she should return to normal. Pecora revealed that a powerful pharmacist lived at the top of the World Tree, a massive tree with 108 floors filled with dangerous creatures. Reaching the top wouldn't be easy. To help them, Pecora ordered Vanya to guide them, and Fatla decided to tag along to keep an eye on her sister. Sadly, Pecora informed Beelzebub that she couldn't join them because she had too much work to handle, which made Beelzebub sulk. Before they left, Azusa told Sharsha and Farfa to stay behind since the journey might be too dangerous. The group soon arrived at the World Tree, where Fatla and Vanya reminisced about their school field trips there. To Azusa's surprise, the tree didn't look like a typical dungeon. Instead, they could pay coins to ride lifts between floors. Fatla warned her about the 11th floor wolves and 12th floor wolves, which Azusa found to be a ridiculous naming system. As they continued climbing, Vanya brought them some snacks, and they reached the 10th floor. From there, they continued upward to the 11th floor, where they encountered a pack of wolves. Expecting danger, Azusa braced herself, only to discover the wolves were actually friendly. Since these wolves always faced powerful demons they couldn't defeat, they had become peaceful over time. The group kept climbing using elevators and eventually reached a relaxing hot spring. As they soaked, Azusa commented that the world tree wasn't nearly as terrifying as she had imagined. However, Vanya warned her that from the 8th station onward, there would be no more elevators, much to Azusa's frustration. Later, the Leviathan sisters thanked Azusa for giving them a reason to travel together, but Azusa apologized for dragging them into her mess. Fatla reassured her that it was no trouble and suggested they rest on the 84th floor before pushing onward. After that, the climb turned into a real dungeon crawl with no more places to stay. The upper floors proved trickier, with sloths and other wild creatures lurking about. Despite the challenges, they eventually reached the top. Fatla helped Azusa take in the breathtaking view from above, which brought Vanya to tears. However, Fatla quickly reminded her sister to stay focused since they still had a job to finish. Finally, they found the pharmacist, who surprised them by casually revealing she had just discovered a cure for Azusa's condition. She handed them Eno's pills, the simple solution that stunned the group since it seemed too easy. Just then, Eno herself arrived, delivering more medicine. When she heard about their exhausting climb, she casually asked why they hadn't just used wyverns to fly straight to the top. On their way back, the group rode wyverns, leaving Azusa wondering why Pecora hadn't told her about the shortcut. Suspicious, Azusa suspected Pecora knew all along about the pills too, but Pecora played innocent. Back home, everyone gathered as Azusa took the medicine. To her embarrassment, she immediately returned to her original size, only to discover her clothes didn't grow back with her. Realizing Pecora had likely planned this prank, Azusa decided to teach her a lesson. As punishment, Pecora was forced to join them in the public bath, something she had never done before. Blushing with embarrassment, Pecora endured it, while Azusa smugly reminded her that, as the older sister, it was her duty to teach Pecora a lesson. Later, a new festival began in the village. Curious, Laika asked Sharsha about it. Sharsha explained that it was the village dance festival, which had been celebrated for 250 years. It was a time for the villagers to offer their harvest fruits to the earth god and pray for a good crop the following year. The festivities lasted 2 days, both on the festival's eve and the main event. Laika wondered if Azusa would join the celebration, but Azusa was hesitant. She didn't want to attract too much attention. However, seeing her family's excitement changed her mind. She decided they would open a small cafe called the Witch's House during the festival. Harakara would prepare drinks, and Laika would cook food. When their cafe uniforms arrived, they looked fantastic on Sharsha and Farfa, but Harakara's uniform was too tight because of her large chest. Rosary jokingly complained that she couldn't wear a uniform at all, but Azusa quickly solved that by using her magic to create a lovely dress just for her. Everyone shared their ideas for the cafe's menu, but Azusa found some of their suggestions too extreme, so she took charge of finalizing it herself. Once the menu was set, they decorated the cafe and handed out pamphlets to invite the villagers. Azusa assured everyone that even if no one showed up, they should just focus on enjoying the festival. The next morning, Azusa awoke to a shocking sight. A massive crowd had already gathered outside their cafe. People had traveled from outside the village just to visit. Realizing they couldn't keep the eager customers waiting, they decided to open an hour earlier than planned. The cafe was buzzing with energy as customers filled the room, enjoying the warm atmosphere and delicious food. Everyone looked stunning in their uniforms, and Fura couldn't help but feel a little jealous that Laika was getting so much attention. Determined not to be outdone, Fura decided to impress everyone by carrying multiple dishes at once. Unfortunately, her attempt backfired. She lost her balance, and the plates wobbled dangerously. Thankfully, Rosary acted fast. Using her magic, she swiftly caught all the plates before they crashed to the floor, neatly placing them on the tables. The customers were amazed by her skill, praising her incredible service. Seeing how happy everyone was, Azusa encouraged her family to keep up the good work. As the busy day wore on, Sharsha grew tired from standing too long. Azusa suggested she sit at the register to rest, which gave Sharsha a chance to relax. Azusa never imagined their cafe would be such a huge success. Suddenly, Beelzebub arrived. Curious, Azusa asked if she had no work to do, but Beelzebub admitted she had come after hearing about their shop. Playfully, she asked why Azusa didn't invite her. Azusa jokingly suggested Beelzebub help serve customers, but Beelzebub reminded her that she was a powerful demon, not someone you casually ask for favors. Despite her words, Beelzebub disappeared through the back door and returned moments later wearing a waitress uniform. The room went silent as customers stared in awe. Beelzebub carried herself with the grace of a queen, her regal presence adding elegance to the cafe. Before long, Bakura showed up as well, and to Azusa's shock, she immediately started helping around the cafe. Surprised, Azusa wondered why the Demon King herself was doing such casual work. Things got even crazier when Vanya and Fatla appeared, busily working in the kitchen. As if that wasn't enough, the fighter slime arrived. Spotting Beelzebub in uniform, she assumed it was part of her training and eagerly jumped in to help. Shortly after, Ino appeared to hand out samples of her new supplements, and then Cuckoo joined in, entertaining the crowd with Fura's help. Azusa could hardly believe her eyes. The simple cafe had turned into a chaotic but lively event. Despite everything, she knew there was no choice but to keep working hard. By the end of the day, the cafe closed its doors after a hugely successful run. As they all sat down to rest, Ino proudly showed Azusa her new supplement, now flavored with fruit juice to mask the bitterness. However, Azusa suggested they skip the business talk for now and just enjoy the peaceful evening. Looking around at her happy family, Azusa reflected on how much her life had changed since being reincarnated. Despite her once peaceful, quiet lifestyle, she realized that spending time with her new family brought her joy. The next day, Harakara excitedly announced that the dance festival's main event was about to begin. Everyone was thrilled, and Beelzebub proudly claimed she would show off her special demon dance. Azusa jokingly asked if she had nothing better to do, but Beelzebub reminded her that she worked hard at the cafe and deserved some credit. Sharsha and Farfa thanked Beelzebub for all her help, and Beelzebub couldn't resist their adorable faces, promising to help them whenever they needed. Rosary smiled, noting that Beelzebub was powerless against the twins' charm. As the festival excitement grew, Azusa couldn't help but smile. After 300 years of living quietly and defeating slimes, she finally had something even more precious, a family she could call her own. That's all for today's recap. We hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe for more content like this and hit the like button to support us. If you want us to recap your favorite anime, leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.